huge deal. And if we understood those concepts, we would never do what 1 out of 2 couples do, including Christian couples. Okay? So a lot of reasons that people give for not hanging in there, for saying, I'm not willing to work at this. And I would tell you that none of those reasons satisfy God. None of those reasons satisfy God. God expects us to hang in there. Look at page 40 at the bottom there. I want to read that section to you at the bottom. Long ago, Israel's King Solomon handed down both wisdom and poetry on the topic of marriage. We all understand 2 are better than 1 when we long for a best friend, lover, and ally who will remain with us for the rest of our life. Solomon captured the feelings eloquently when he wrote, "This is my lover, this is my friend." In the same book of the Bible, the Song of Solomon, Solomon also invites his beautiful wife to come with me. Its words are frequently used in weddings because we can easily identify with a romance and desire for a soulmate. The vast majority of adults find someone to fill their need for a partner and companion. Approximately 90% will eventually marry. Unfortunately, around half of all marriages will end in divorce. Most perish from what's called irreconcilable differences, which is a catch-all phrase for Caleb's description, "It's just not working anymore." Other common explanations include, "I've fallen out of love with him or her," or "we're just 2 different people now." But in reality, there are days in every relationship when there are irreconcilable differences. Would we not agree? I mean, how many of us have day after day after day after day perfect days in our marriage? No. You missed 1 day? Okay. Was that one last week or the week before?
We're still on our honeymoon.
You're still on your honeymoon. Okay. You've been married, is it 10?
13.
13, okay. How many for you? 5, okay. How many for you? 7. Almost 13. 13, okay. All right, so you are the youngest here, okay. So you only have 1 not perfect day in the whole 13 years. That's amazing.
We don't argue, we don't fuss.
Okay.
Because I know she'll win if we argue.
He said, I know she'll win if we argue, so I just don't. Well, okay, well, could I give you the book then and let you teach the rest of this class? Because I obviously am bowing to someone who has got a better marriage than I do. Wait to stop laughing too much. We're just having too much fun. Yeah, we all have those days when we look at each other and go, I mean, we just can't agree on anything today. We just can't get along on something. We all have those days.
Well, I'm sure those days we don't agree, but I just don't.
Right. I mean, we don't fight and knock down, drag out battles and so forth. Now, there's sometimes when maybe we pass each other in the hallway for a day and go, but we haven't done that for a long time, I don't think.
I think part of that's like experience, though, that you just know that it's not that big of a deal, so you don't take the time to.
Well, some of it is maybe as you age, you realize a lot of that's petty. I mean, and when you suffer some significant loss, you just feel like, oh, this is nothing compared to
Right.
some
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think just for clarification, your question was, don't you think it's because as you age, these are things don't become as important?
Well,
As
I said experience.
As you're in the marriage
Because I know
longer.
some of your background from being in Bible study with you, and when I thought about that, I'm like you said, when you've suffered something, you think this is nothing compared to that, so why use my time and energy?
Right. Yeah, it does help you to put some things in perspective. I mean, I remember, friends of ours one time, they got married, and shortly after they were married, and been married very long, there was a whole disagreement about who takes the trash out. You say, what? Well, I mean, why are we disagreeing on who takes the trash out? Well, because in her family, her father always took the trash out. And in his family, his father never took the trash out. It was his mother's job. So she says, would you take the trash out? And he's going, no, my father never took the trash out. I'm not taking the trash out. And they had this huge argument about who takes the trash out. Who really cares? It's not that significant a deal, but it was a big argument for them. Now, years down the road, it's no big argument anymore, but I think you're right. The longer we're together and the more that we experience, the less some things that were important are important anymore. Okay? And so we don't argue over those things, and it's not because, my wife almost wouldn't see an argument. It's just because there's no point in arguing over those things anymore. And I think you do, especially in the experience like you've had, Susan, of losing a husband, that you realize, a lot of things that aren't nearly as important as I thought they might have been, and things that I'm now going to capture that I maybe failed to capture the first time around, and I'm going to capture them this time and not mess them up. And so I think that's true. I'm going to be doing a wedding not long from now, and both of them, as we were sitting down doing premarital counseling together, they both said, we know the significance of marriage because it's like we're each getting a second chance. And so they're looking at this marriage as a very special marriage because it's a second chance for both of them. Okay? So you're right, perspective has a lot to do with it. So he says, in reality, there are days in every relationship when there are irreconcilable differences. But God intended marriage to last a lifetime. The salt and pepper lesson portrays a great truth. Marriage is a covenant. The dictionary defines covenant as a solemn agreement with legal validity. In our culture, however, marriage is sometimes treated like a 50-50 contract, what I said to you last week. Spouses do their part if they feel the other partner is doing his or hers. Let me ask you a question. When you put the ring on your finger, what did that symbolize? You wear that ring on your finger, and I've had this ring ever since we got married. I don't think I've ever had it off, maybe once. What does that ring symbolize? Well, you always hear the same thing in the marriage, the marriage ceremony. The ring symbolizes a couple of things. It symbolizes gold, which represents the purity of our relationship. It is unending, which means that that's the way our marriage is supposed to be. But there was another one that I ran across a number of years ago, which I've always made part of my explanation about the ring. And that is, this says to anybody in the world, I belong to somebody. I belong to somebody. And so I'm not up for grabs. I'm not up for temptation. I belong to somebody. Now that's a significant thing, okay? Because there aren't very many situations in which I'm tempted, obviously, working in church situations at Moody all the time. But there are some, and you think, well, now wait a second. This means that I belong to her. And she's got one that says she belongs to me. So there's no interest for me in anybody else, in anything else, because I belong to somebody. So when you think about that ring that you wear, it really says, it's not just gold, it's not just purity, it's not just unending, but it's I belong to somebody. And that's why you never take it off. That's why I never take it off. It's always there. Okay? So the ring is a significant thing. Now, the ring is part of the covenant ceremony, and I want us to look at the covenants for just a minute. But would you turn to Matthew chapter 19, verses 5 and 6? Matthew 19, verses 5 and 6. And there's a significant passage there, and somebody read when you get to Matthew 19, 5 and 6. Okay? Okay? Who's got it? Anybody? Bob?
19, sorry.
Yep.
And said, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother, be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two but one. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man separate.
Okay, he gives an illustration there. He takes the salt and the pepper, two very different things, glues them together, and says they're one. Well, they are, but they're not really. They're still salt and pepper. Okay? But what Bob just read is that Jesus said, and it's taken from Genesis, the two shall be one flesh. Now, perhaps you had that read at your marriage, or you had it described or preached on in your marriage. What does that concept mean to you? That they will become one flesh. What's that mean? What's the picture for you? I mean, you don't meld into each other. It's not a melding thing here. You don't become glued together, necessarily like the salt and pepper. But what's it mean? What do you think about that when you say, we're one flesh?
I think that, in general terms, that you're no longer just living for yourself.
Okay. Go ahead.
Now you're living for your spouse.
Okay. You're not just one single individual, another single individual, you are. So you're working together. Okay? You are working for a common goal, a common good. Okay? Whether it's, and I'm always amazed, sometimes I've